Well, I was started early doing what I loved. I was very, very fortunate. I loved doing carpentry. And I was very fortunate to learn from a master tradesman who learned his trade in a concentration camp where his life depended on perfection. And he was my teacher. Of course, he was a perfectionist, so he never let me do carpentry. I could mix things and pull them and clean up. But eventually, what he did teach me was the art of perfection, so that when he completed a project with wood, it was so perfect. And that was what taught me how to be a master carpenter. I became a very, very, very accomplished carpenter. I then went on to build very large custom homes. And I was just, people were just always after me because they said, it's all you ever talk about. You know, you have sawdust for brains, because I was so in love with what I was doing. And to me, that was very, very fortunate because many, many people just work for money. They hate what they're doing, but they work for money, and it's a situation where you're burning yourself every day. But enough of that for a minute. So at any rate, I was really got on top of the world. I built homes in New York, in California, and Colorado. I built one of the largest homes in Colorado. It was 19,000 feet. I actually did that with my mentor. He became ill and asked me to take over that job. It was very, very rewarding. I got to do things there that you just don't get to do in normal houses, and it was very, very satisfying. So I was on top of the world. I was just raising a family. My children were 2 and 3 years old, and then got some very bad news. My wife was diagnosed with cancer. It was a brain tumor, and they literally gave her 2 weeks to live. And so they'd also told me that we couldn't have children. Well, I have 2 children and now 4 grandchildren. So I didn't elect to believe them. And I said, we can get out of this somehow. And so I went around looking for people who I used to laugh at, like gurus and people that worked outside of allopathic medicine, because they literally sent her home to die. After she did have an operation, and they said, well, the longest time anybody had ever lived from this was 2 weeks. She actually went another 11 years. But it was a difficult 11 years. But that sent me around the world to find places in India and Thailand and the Philippines, Canada, the United States. You'll be surprised where some really amazing people are. And I wound up with a spiritual teacher for the next 27 years. Well, I learned that healing had something to do
Can
with.
you
Go ahead.
can you talk a little bit more about the, like, because my question goes, wow, like, so you have this, we have 2 weeks to live, and then how do you go from 2 weeks, like this transition from 2 weeks to longer? Like, what was the first step? And then also, can you move just a little bit away from the camera, because
Sure.
the picture is
How's that?
cropped.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, better. Even you can even move like a little bit back your chair, so you sit just a little bit back. Oh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's much better. But like if you can move the chair, yeah, there you go. So
Yeah.
your picture is, yeah, there you go.
Computer instead, but I
That's
didn't.
great.
Okay.
What's that?
I moved the computer instead. I didn't tell you.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, it looked like something moved, so the distance got better.
I'm just teasing. Yes, that's a
Yeah,
very
because
good
yes,
question.
you go like this. Yeah,
How
go
I
ahead.
went from 2 weeks to 11 years. The short answer is I don't really know. The the long answer is immediately I had this, and this really is important. I think we had this indomitable spirit that said, this is not going to happen. This is not true. And what we're going to do is find the truth. And that produced a modicum of hope. Okay. And that's very powerful. And then as I began to learn things, now here's the thing. In her religion, she was raised as devout in that religion, and that religion really didn't accept the kind of things that I was learning. And So much so that actually 2 years into this 11-year process, she filed for a divorce because I was going about these East Indian philosophies, trying to find a way to heal. And I knew it was the sickness talking, so I was undaunted because we had a good relationship. We had beautiful children. We were on our way. Uh, During that time, too, the market crashed and we lost everything. I mean, it was just, this was a major reset button. She was, her health, we had lost that, and my entire business just collapsed. It was
Oh
a
wow.
difficult time. So I thought, well, this is the time to get some travel in and meet these people and find out. I sought out people who I'd heard could heal anything. And that brought me on a long, long journey around the world, which then I was able to do being divorced. Okay.
So you were like, first question is like, what you talking about spirit? You mean like that was your desire to make a change and not accept it, or was that an actual, you felt like something beyond you was saying that something else is possible, or is that your higher self?
Yeah, the answer is yes to both those questions. It's yes, I didn't accept it because they erroneously said that she could not have children, and we had children. And so I was not believing. I said I would rather believe what I saw as the truth. And then I heard, oh, there's all of these spiritual things that we can do. And I really used to laugh at it. It's like salami, bologna, instead of swami. And so it was quite a transition for me to get into this. And as I chose that, it just poured to my feet. People would bring things to me. People would show me things. Just I had made that choice, and all of a sudden doors open. People would talk to me. I'm walking down the street or I'm in a store and they say, oh, you should look at this book. And it was about Sri Satya Sai Baba in India. Next thing I know, I'm in India visiting Sri Satya Sai Baba. I'm staying on his ashram. Things like that would happen. And that's where I began to accumulate the knowledge. Now, here's the funny part for me. Many of these people I went to see, and they were all over the world. We just have to open our eyes. Um, Many of them didn't speak English. I would be sitting at the feet of the master, so to speak, and in that energy, Sai Ma, Guru Dev, there were so many, and they would speak Hindu or whatever language they were speaking. It really didn't matter. It was the transmission of energy that was important. When we sit in this energy field, we have the faculty already within us to completely understand, not understand, to understand. The information comes directly into our hearts, into every cell of our bodies. This was one of the things I learned in that journey, was that every cell of our body contains all the knowledge of the universe. See, most people think their skin is the end of their body, but it's not. It's just a membrane between your inner body and your outer body. So everything outside of you is also your body. If that's true,
Mm,
then you know everything because you're everywhere. Now we think about
mm.
things we've been taught traditionally. I was brought up Greek Orthodox, and that God is omnipresent. Well, that sort of explains it. You see, God's
Mm.
everywhere because God is everything. God is the all and the everything.
You have to pardon me. I'm like, I have questions.
Sure.
I'm gonna keep bringing them up because because for me, I'm trying to trace down the timeline, and the transition is so important. Because it sounds like when you tell a story, right? It sounds like, oh, like my wife got sick, and then and then I went to the journey, but the human, it's not that easy. It's like you're dealing with all these challenges that are everyone's dealing with. It's not like you're a saint or have super capabilities. You're dealing with it like a human, on a human level, and then you're saying that 2 years later your wife, like, she filed for divorce, like, so you divorced.
Yes, we did divorce.
And then how did you lived separately, and then you continue looking for her
Yes,
healing?
yes. My reasoning was it was a brain tumor. So and they told me it would alter her thoughts and mind. at best, that this could possibly happen. So I realized, or at least I made up, that that didn't matter. I was undaunted, that it was the illness talking, it was evil, if you will, speaking, not her. And so I said, well, I'm going to continue with this because, we went through some hard times when they said she couldn't have children too. That was the evil speaking again. And I call it evil. It's like negative thoughts. Okay. And that is very, very inhibitive. It's very powerful. What we have in our mind, how we think, and how we act upon it is extraordinarily powerful. So we have an essence inside of us that maybe comes into a thought, then comes into words, and comes into action. That's kind of a trail that we can follow. And what I learned from first off that we could have children, even despite what modern day medicine said, was that there was something else speaking. There was something else going on. In retrospect, I can see that was a prerequisite to helping me to help her out of the cancer by not believing in others, not discounting. I mean, there's beautiful things that happen. If I break my arm or something, I would want to be able to go to a doctor or a hospital, have it reset. But the healing process is mine alone. Do you see? And so I really embraced that. I said, okay, this is what they can do. That's as far as allopathic medicine can go. The rest is up to your own intention. So you intend to live, you intend to go forward, you intend for yourself to be well and healthy again, or you could give up. One of the two could happen, and you could perish and die. That happens to many people. So we chose, at least I did, for her to live. And by results, she did too. You see, or it couldn't have happened. She wanted to stay there. We had two beautiful children.
When she was, when she was present, because I'm sure there were moments when she was present to you and what the love and the beauty of the whole situation. Was she appreciative? Was she saying like, thank you for everything you do?
At times, but her how she was brought up in her faith wouldn't allow her to accept many of the precepts. For example, like I would come back and say, I learned the natural state of being is healthy, and anything beyond that we create. Well, how do we create that? We create it with our mind. Okay, and that was something that she really couldn't accept. She was of the mind that it was God's will or somebody outside of herself that would make her ill. And I'm learning that God is within all of us, and so it's within us to heal. Okay, that's where God resides. It's like I said a few minutes ago, the all and the everything. Even some of the great gurus that I met, they would say you could worship God as a being, or you could worship God as the all and the everything. And I was leaning towards the all and the everything, and either one is okay, because the principle of the whole issue of God is, this is like, how would I say it? It's a pro-life affirmation, if you will, that keeps us in a truth. You could say God is truth, for example. So when you're dealing with the truth, there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to cloak, there's nothing to withhold. Which if you're not doing any of those things, you're allowing your body to be free. When it's free, it can operate in a healthy way. So if you have people know when they're stressed, right, that causes most illness because that restricts parts of your body. Where's the stress coming from? It's coming from trying to believe something, possibly one place it can come from, trying to believe something that isn't true and holding on to it. You see?
Yeah.
So
what's interesting to me is that that the like what's very common right now in the world is that usually women would go and say, well, I saw this, I saw, she goes, follows her intuition, discovers some spiritual practice. It's very common. And I've met so many women that most of the women say what you say, is like they would come and then the husband would be like, no, he'll be very, focused and the 3D, I guess, and to what you can see with the physical eye, and nothing else is there. So you you had a complete opposite situation, and like a long time ago. This was years ago.
It's a very good point to bring up, because as I have learned over the years, the female energy is the incoming energy. It's called wisdom. And not in gender, it's the female energy. It's the collection of information. And as a woman, female in gender, you have more of that intuition naturally as your predominant way of being. So you collect information a lot easier. And that's called wisdom. The male energy is the outward centrifugal force, and that's the action, it's the doing. And that's known as love. Now, not love in a romantic sense, but love as an energy, a progressive energy. And so being focused, we have as males, we're focused on, we're taught, it's innate. I know I feel it. I'm always wanting to protect, and to provide things of this nature. And we're focused when we go out and hunt to get something, we're focused on what we're doing. The female energy, okay, if they're looking for food, more likely are collecting the berries, collecting the food, collecting the things from the gardens. You see, it's a gathering of information. So quite naturally, women are closer to their sense of God, which we're calling women's intuition, okay, than men are, because we're outward focused, where women are inward focused. How much your body changes during your life as you grow up as a woman, we don't go through that. Okay. So we're just simply, our focus is outward, where your focus is naturally drawn inward. Oh, I'm starting my menstrual cycle. I'm changing, my body's shifting, and you're becoming a beautiful woman. And so we don't have to go through that, but you need to pay attention to that. It's part of your life, right? So you can see how this paradigm evolves. It's interesting. We used to build these star tetrahedrons where we would stand inside of them, and we just built them with curtain rods. It really didn't matter. We were creating an energy, and we would make the curtain rods the length of our body, the height of our bodies, or the length from fingertip to fingertip. And when we would put these together and the cross comes down from the star tetrahedron in front of our faces, the males are perfectly content with that, because it's focused. You see, we're just fine to have that right in front of us. We see it, we know where it is.
Right, I remember, yes.
Yeah. And if we turn the other way where it's open, okay, for me, I just felt like I was going to fall out. It was like the energy was just pouring in there, like pulling at me, and the women, it was funny, they would stand in front of the arc coming down, and they would go like this to go get this thing out of the way, and they would turn to the open part of the star tetrahedron and be perfectly comfortable, as that's all the energy coming in. So we couldn't prove this to ourselves. That's one thing I did, even when the gurus would tell us things, we would go out and try to prove it and see what we could find out.
Even describing it makes me, like I want an open space in front of me. It's like naturally, like I don't want anything in front of me, for sure, like even from description of that,
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this part specifically, because it's so you're speaking about love, right? Men love. And I've just been, it's literally in my conversation in my head right now and yesterday, the difference, because in the movies they show love and romance as men sending you a teddy bear and the strawberries, and it's so programmed, that you expect, if man likes you, you expect for him to do that. You're like, oh, like he doesn't like me because, what's wrong with me, what's wrong with him? And I was like thinking about that. Can you expand more on that? Because I'm understanding that men think differently, and the protection part and the taking care part and providing part, but we are not shown that through the movies. We are not shown, and I'm like, it doesn't click for me in my head.
There's an absolute force, and I would call it a dark force, that would distort, that has created so many distortions in our lives. Like, how are we supposed to be versus how it really is? We are naturally in these states of being. these distortions, like we're going to take love, the outward centrifugal force, which is, so let me define that better first. I could come up to you and smack you in the shoulder. By definition, an outward centrifugal force, that's love. Okay. Or I could come up and hug you. By definition, an outward centrifugal force, that's love. So it's simply the male energy. How it is qualified then makes the big difference. So if I'm love, go out and shooting people and creating mayhem, that's still love. It's a hard one to swallow here, but it's the way it is. It's just an outward centrifugal force. Okay. So how I qualify my love to you, either I am kind and gentle and appreciative and compassionate, or I'm angry and offensive and even violent. Both of those fall under the category of love. In the movies, they like to take this away and say, oh, well, the compassionate part, the loving part, all of these things, we say that's love. And I noticed those wings behind you. One you were explaining to me earlier, one was the devil, one was the angel, right? And there we are. So see, you have two energies occurring. One is what we call it hits the mark. In other words, it's the truth and it works. Or and the other one is that it misses the mark and it doesn't work. Okay, and then we, for example, the word sin. Okay, and the church uses this a lot. Many religions, they say you've sinned, you're bad, you're wrong, you're going to go to hell. All of these things. No, in the archer, what the word actually came from was the archers in the early centuries would shoot their target, arrows at a bullseye, and if they missed the bullseye, they say, you've sinned, you've missed the mark. That's what it meant. SYNNED. Well, guess what?
Wow.
They have another arrow and they get another chance to hit the mark. They're not bad, they're not wrong. You see, they're not sinners, they just sinned. They missed the mark. So we have missed the mark on so many things by not seeing the equality of what it is that's trying to be expressed. So here we have good, we have evil, or we have compassion, or we have destructive nature. Both are the same energy called love. How are we going to qualify it? We can't take one without the other. The universe is an equal sign. They work together. That's how we keep in balance. That explain it for you? Does that help?
It explains very much. I'm like right away applying it to my life, and the dilemma is, there are triggers, right? And like there was like a part of my brain that understands, okay, I'm not falling anymore in that part, because I grew up, with my father was expressing love through beating my mom up, and getting drunk, and that was his love. And my mom said he loved me very much. She said that.
Yeah.
And the reflex is there that the person has to express their feelings through some sort of loud emotions or actions, right? And I'm understanding that this is not the way I receive and I choose to receive. Like, I don't want to.
You
And then
chose
there's
something different. You see, you're saying, I see how they express their love. I'm choosing something different. Okay. There were psychiatric experiments done with children who were abused. And if it was one of the parents that abused them, not the other, and they would ask the children, who do they want to be with? And they usually chose the abuser. And I said, what? How is that possible? But if you look at the definition here, that's where they got the most love, because in their mind, love was wired as getting these abuse because it was the most attention paid to them. You see, and so then they were grown, and later in years I used to work with children who would get in fights at school, and they'd send them to me, we'd see what the deal was. And every one of them was abused. They had love wired as, we get in a fight, and that's how we show our love. Very difficult concept to wrap our heads around, I'll tell you.
it makes sense to me. It is very complicated, and it like takes time to settle in. But it makes sense to me because between my mom and dad, I chose my dad. Like like right away, I love him. I know he loved me. I know he did everything he could. He failed. He failed at giving me what I want. But it it's funny. It's like my mom is the one who's struggling now, and she's the one that didn't make choice, didn't have enough, I guess, courage to be herself, and it's sad. It's like I could never understand. Now I understand why, because
It might not be,
her love was
well, go ahead. It might not be that she didn't have the courage to do it, but she had bought the distortion. Do you see? She had bought it. Here's how,
mm-hmm,
as though there was no choice. Okay.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's the thing in life right now. If we're doing something that is untenable to us and doesn't really work, we sometimes don't have an idea that there's a choice.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
See, women, I know in previous times it was like the man went out to work, the women raised the children, brought home the bacon, the woman cooked the dinner, kind of thing like that. And what has
mm-hmm,
happened is when we had this era of women's suffrage and they went out and burned the bras and things like that, this was a great thing because what had happened was, in the yin and the yang symbol, there's a female energy and a male energy, and then there's that dot in each one that is the opposite on each one. So on the female side, there's that dot of male energy. On the male energy side, there's that dot of female energy. Okay. And what that means is that the male and the female energy exist in all of us. So when the women burn the bra, they say, hey, we get the information and we can go out and do it.
mm-hmm.
And us men had to go to all these self-awareness programs, find out what the heck happened. And because all of a sudden, all the women are coming into the workforce, and they're expressing the idea that they can go out and do just everything that we're doing or that the males are doing, you see. And there's an
Mm-hmm.
interesting thing that's happening right now over the last maybe 15 years. Many women have become the breadwinner. Many women are
Mm-hmm.
going out and working, the males are staying home. It's an interesting
Mm-hmm.
shift. I have several friends that are like that. And because they discovered that the female turned out to be the alpha, turned out to be more male energy. And the male turned out to be the female, the compassionate receiving. So they collect the information, give it to their wives, and then the wives go out and do it.
Yeah.
Just the opposite is occurring. To me, this was an incredible demonstration of balance. Okay, so
Wow.
okay.
I
Now,
was even surprised that like I saw some of those people. I was surprised
mhm.
how calm they are. They were like, it's like a normal thing for them. And for me, it's a bit shocking coming from the culture where, I came from Kyrgyzstan and Ukraine, so I saw the Russians, the Uzbek people, I saw different religions where women had to be at home completely like locked down with kids, and now I'm letting go of realities pretty quickly, but it was I was trying to be like, okay, noticing the judgment that's running through my head, just
Yeah,
observing a lot
that's a good
of
thing that you know.
observation.
It's just a judgment. And as soon as we're
Mhm.
judging, here's the thing. There's an old saying, see how my finger I point, I say, oh, look at them, they're doing this. Look where the other three fingers are pointed back to me.
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
Okay.
uh-huh.
You cannot see or appreciate something unless it's within yourself. You won't even know it's happening. So you see,
Mhm.
you have had the opportunity to see many different sides of relationship. And now you can say, I like that, so I'm going to move there. Or I don't like that, I'm going to move someplace else. You see, you realize,
That's exactly what it is. It's like I want that. Well, I want it for myself. Usually behind the judgment, that's what I find. I'm like, oh, but I want that for myself too. Or like, how come they can have it and I can? Often that's what I find.
well, there's another thing too, there's prices and payoffs for everything. Okay. If you choose one,
Mhm.
there's a whole parameter of rules that go with it. If you choose the other, there's a whole parameter of rules that go with it. If you are
Mhm.
lucky enough that you two partners, partners choose each other, and they understand that these things could shift and change as life goes on. For example, sometimes you may take the lead because you know more about what's going on than your partner. And then sometimes vice versa. They take the lead because they know more. Do you see?
Mhm.
Or
Mhm.
if strength was the issue, maybe the male just simply takes over because that's what's needed.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah,
Physical.
for me right now is the noticing that, it's letting go of that pattern of that my mom and dad had, letting go of the healing part, because I feel like my marriage went through healing my relationship with his father. And now I'm in a transition where I need I really am looking to see the goodness, the gratitude, that because no matter what I do, I will still like bring that into the next relationship, and it's the appreciation of what the person is doing for me, and so generously,
Mhm.
including my husband, first of all,
Yeah. It's moving past the distortions. It's a nice choice. And your mother and father, thinking of it this way, everybody, every single person, every single event is here for you, for your benefit to learn. So you saw
Mm-hmm.
how they qualified love with each other, and you say, I will take this portion and bring it to my relationship, but I will leave this part of that where it is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And respect the fact that, yeah, this is how they loved each other. And here's how I'm choosing. See, it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. When I talked about it, I didn't say one thing like love is an outward centrifugal force. It's not a receiving thing. Isn't that interesting? You say, oh, he loves me so much, and that's what I'm feeling. No, what you're feeling is your love for yourself and for them. See, love isn't a receiving thing, it's a giving thing. It's an outward centrifugal force. And this is what might be called chemistry. Like I have an outward centrifugal force towards you, you have an outward centrifugal force towards me, and that's called chemistry.
It's for both people. It's for both people, not
Yeah.
because I thought that man gives and woman receives. And that's what I've been taught. That woman has receiving energy. And then man has a giving energy. But you're talking about love as if it was an energy separate from the body.
Mhm. Yes. You see, just by gender, the woman receives the seed in intercourse, the male gives the seed. Okay. So, but what we have to realize is the male and female is not just in the physical world, it's in the spiritual world. The male energy is the outward centrifugal force, the female energy is the incoming wisdom. And both male and female in gender have both.
Mm.
Have the physical
Wow.
ability and you have the wisdom. Men call it gut feeling. Okay. They have a gut feeling. And that when they interviewed Fortune 500 men, I forget, it was in April of like 1987 or something. I remember reading something about that. And they said that how did they make decisions? How is it that they could consistently make good choices? And almost unanimously, it came down to a gut feeling. The female energy. They collected the information, they came up with the answer. Isn't that interesting?
It's amazing. It's yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. I'm
Yes.
just trying to digest the part that you said before. it's it's a beautiful. I love this reality that you're talking about, and I'm trying to understand that, because now it seems like there is a physical and there is
Spiritual.
an energy, a spiritual. I don't even know what to call it. And it's the bigger part of you. It's not just physical expression of who you are, rather than the being itself. And the being itself is already balanced. Like it's already.
Yeah. You might, a lot of people call this the God energy because it is. The God is omnipresent, all knowing. It is the all and the everything. And so it has the male and the female already together in equal, as an equal. See, we have been distorted since we're engendering it. Well, we're by gender the male, called the male, that we act that way. I mean, how many things was I taught as I always tease, I say, well, I went from a macho, nail bending, beer drinking, shouting, contractor to intuitive healer. So I went from this massive outward expression
We
to,
need a picture. We need a picture of you from that time.
oh boy, I prided myself that I could make anybody quit in under 7 minutes. I mean, I was a tyrant, and it was all about being this macho, rough, tough person in a rough, tough world called construction. And so I played the game called construction with that macho, okay, application. And I came up through the trades. So not everybody did this, in construction, but see, in the trades, there's rites of passage that you go through that create these distortions. Like, wow, I mean, you are put through the mill, that's just it, so that you can be sure that you're one of the men, you're one of the boys, that here's the way you do things in life. And
Wow.
unfortunately, those go into my, private life and everywhere else. So I say, oh yeah, I'm the man. I'm supposed to do this. I'm the man. I'm the man. I have the last word. Where if you really study many cultures, it was the women, particularly in indigenous tribes, American Indian. Most the true leaders were the women. They were the ones with the wisdom. They told the warriors what to do, and the warriors did it. People aren't aware of that. Because all the cowboys and see the Indians, they leave big portions out of these things in Hollywood, which create these distortions.
Wow. I feel like distortions is the whole like topic itself, but I'd like to touch just a little bit on that because I'm also seeing that right now that and we are moving away from it. We are moving away into I'm creating my reality, the visualization, the thought process, how you start to observe your thoughts process and people are realizing that it comes from the thought. But I feel like, can you talk a little bit more about distortions? Because I feel like it's a very important topic that's.
Yeah, well, ask it by asking a question. It's like, what do you think your role is as a woman? Okay, and you start to look around. You say, oh, well, all my friends, we wait for the man to ask us out. Okay, distortion right at the beginning. You have a feeling for somebody, but you're not supposed to say it because you're a woman. You have to wait for the man to say it. Okay, and so we play these games. I'm going to chase him till he catches me, kind of things.
Yeah.
And instead of expressing how it is that you feel in the moment. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a very basic distortion. Another one is, yeah, the man is supposed to provide. And, and not so many generations ago, like my parents' generation, you were chained to the stove. You raised the children. The man went out and did the work. You came home. All decisions, or at least the implementation of the decisions were made by the man. The woman was to be silent. These are terrible distortions. Okay.
Wow.
And so when women went to offer their intuition or intuitive knowing of a situation, they were pretty much quashed. One of the biggest distortions was, the male suffrage. Just, I mean, women had to fight to vote is just amazing to me. Because here it was, they had the knowledge. Now, in many, many years, as it went by, for example, when in the early, was it 17th century? I think I'm not sure of the dates. Well, it happened over a long period of time where women were burned at the stake as witches. As men were starting to find out they were smarter, they were more tuned in, they could get the answers, and this would cause them to lose control because one of the other distortions was the man is supposed to be in control. So when the women started exercising that they knew what was really going on in the world and expressing that, the men become very fearful, literally burned them at the stake, called them witches. This is a part of history that's a very difficult part. It's a dark part of history. And this has happened in so many facets of our living. Look at how
My daughter is afraid still of the fire, and I know she remembers because she just can't come to the fire close. She sees it, and I can see that the reaction is uncontrollable, and it's not from this life because she's never seen anything with fire, but she sees it and she's like, I don't know, I'm afraid of it. Please don't burn it. And she just like leaves, and she's such a wise soul. You know, she's like our grandma of grandmas. She's like everybody telling me that she's 1,000 years of lives, you know, so and she is very, very much aware of what's happening, and it's like an instant reaction, you know.
I know. We also went through a time period, which I think we're probably still on the tail end of, where women could do the same job as men and get paid less. Okay. This is still happening today. So there's still some distortions occurring. The cover story for that is, well, women get pregnant, then they have to go, stay away from work for a while. And so their worth in terms of hours and dollars and cents, quote, becomes less. Now, I have some friends, they literally bring their babies to work with them. They say, well, I'm a mother, my baby stays with me. Put a crib in my office and I'll work for you. If you don't, I'll work somewhere else. I thought, wow.
That's
That was impressive to me. And beautiful too, because that's where the child belongs, with the mother. Okay. Now,
that's another that's yeah, that's one thing that I saw, that a lot of women give birth and 2 weeks in they put baby in a daycare, and for me it was a heartbreaking, because that's one thing I feel like I was born with that knowledge that you can't, until 3 years old you can't do that, and that's shocking to me, that the kids are going through this complete separation, and there's no, I don't know if they're in touch with their soul, with their like inner being, with their sense of who they are, with the hugs.
this is their formative years, 0 through 7 years old. And also there is an auric attachment between them, a very strong one between mothers and children and their children.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought, because this is, like I'm just like so excited because everything you're talking about I love. Because you spoke about women, right? The distortion of women's world, but now with men there's different distortions, right? Like, I know a friend of mine, he's afraid to appear gay, and he's in his 50s, right? And he knows he's not gay, but any thought or pattern of that, he has to match up, and I feel so sad for him, because he can't embrace his like feminine side. It stops him from the intuition, and he's so handsome, and he like goes into his femininity. I'm like, all the girls gonna go nuts about you, but he doesn't want to do that. He's just like, and it's instant reaction.
Well, what I would say to that is, again, it's the distortions. We're supposed to be manly. We're supposed to be tough and strong. We're not supposed to be. These are the distortions, whereas if the intuitive part of you is stronger, which makes you the person that gathers your female side of you is strong, and you are gathering that information, that doesn't fit what I was describing earlier, this macho contractor image of males. It was, here we are. I remember walking down the streets in upstate New York, and there were big buildings being built, and there were construction workers, and they would whistle at the girls and they'd carry on, and I thought, well, that's kind of not nice. And then as I became in that field, went into the contracting field, I discovered most of these men, not all, but most of them were married, they had families, and they would be the first one to protect a family member, anybody's family member. But in that thing called I'm this macho twit contractor, I had to act this way. You see, and your friend is caught, okay, in that kind of thinking. Whereas we have the phrase we call it, just be outrageously you. Stop thinking about what you think other people are thinking about you, because most often you'll be wrong about that.
Wow.
Outrageously you. It's pretty much accepted around the world right now. Some places not, but that's how it is. And once again, we're here for a specific purpose. Let me really drive that home. I thought, for example, after that 11 years when my wife passed, that she just died. Then after that, I went to Thailand, and I was was there to shoot a documentary on a producer had picked 4 healers out of 44 countries, and I was one of them. We were doing a documentary. And they put me immediately, I went off the plane, went straight to this studio, and he put me in front of this woman named Jasmine. She was a seer. She knows everything. And she began to tell me in Thai all about my family, with a translator. And so I took the opportunity. I said, well, why did my wife, have to suffer so much? Why did, those were a difficult 11 years for her, And she said, it's very simple. She said, in her family, the women were a little difficult to each other. And she took on all that karma. My daughter loves her daughter. That was one reason. The second reason was she took me from macho, nail-bending, beer-drinking, shouting contractor to intuitive healer. And when that was done, she left. That was her purpose for being here. You see, that we think, well, she just died. No, she was on a mission and she accomplished it, both of them. And I'm sure
maybe that's why I'm such a I'm so tough on my husband. It's because I'm there to get him out of wherever he is. Just it takes that much to wake you guys up.
Sometimes it does, it does. Sometimes, because think of it. I always tease myself. I have to, I'll get angry about something and I want to be Rambo, and go handle it. I want to go physically, go punch the guy in the nose or something, and I tease with myself. I said, now we got to get the Rambo out of this. We've got to deal with this with information, with wisdom, with understanding, and with a peaceful idea of how to resolve it. And that goes against the entire construct of protection. Like, I'm to protect my family. I remember I used to buy guns and things and keep them in the house, and I would play out these scenarios. What do I do if, what do I do if, what do I do if? And how do I handle this when we're out and something happens? And I'm always was wary of being in the position to be able to protect. Now somebody comes along and tells me, well, wait a minute, you should use your intuition, and maybe your wife's the one that you go out and work and use this. Destroys that entire construct. Okay. And that's not an easy thing to do, to take an entire construct of thinking and just change it. It took me years and years. Okay. And
yeah, that's a very complicated part. I think that's where people struggle. It's much easier to take someone else's reality and apply it to your life than create your own, because that involves, you have to sit down and think, listen to your crazy world that's going on around there and get rid of it. It's a lot of junk, not outside of the world, but inside here.
Yes, that's so well stated. Listening to that crazy junk, that's what it is. It's a learn.
I don't know how to. I really, yeah.
Pardon?
If you could share your thoughts on that, because for me, I'm at the place where, okay, I'm ready to listen to what's going on inside of myself. I'm ready to go to the source of my thoughts. I'm ready to hear them out and take responsibility to really create consciously, my thought pattern, not the words that coming out, but before that. But I'm like, share with me something.
Well, your brain is telling you that you're not there when you're already there. That's the trick of the whole thing. It's like your brain is diabolical, because it is. See, what had happened was, we all operated from our hearts. We did what was true and honest and served the highest and best good. Then we were trained to do something else, and trained and trained and trained. And this is what's called logic. I call it illogical indiscretions, because your heart has no questions. It knows what to do. Your brain has no answers. It has to create through logic. Your brain is set here to carry out the functions necessary for living. It's not really here to make decisions. Your heart is here to make the choice. Your brain is here to carry it out. And when we start to understand simple truths like that, Your heart, it's like when you're driving down the street and you know you have to go straight and you hear this voice, turn right or something, you know, and you turn right. Or you even do it unconsciously and you go, why did I do that? I'm supposed to go straight. And there may have been an accident, or you may have gotten in an accident further up ahead, or there might have been some just, you know, something that would have caused some distress straight ahead. And your intuition saved you in that moment and said, oh, we're just going to go here. So I make it a habit when you start changing your mind about how you see these things. So I say, oh, thank you for saving my life today. I went the wrong way. Okay. And maybe now this actually happened to me in Colorado. I was coming back from one of our high spiritual meetings, and it was a tremendous snowstorm. It was a big ice storm, and they were building new bridges and highways, and I went under those new bridges. It was minutes after I went under there that they collapsed. Now I thought, wow, I remember telling myself to slow down because I was speeding, and I didn't slow down. I kept going. Had I been going slower, I may have been under that bridge. So I was just listening to my intuition. And actually, I didn't even know I was, because I didn't realize I was speeding till I was halfway through there. But I just kept going a little longer before I actually slowed down. Now, I read
Wow.
it was in the news that those things collapsed. I don't know exactly the time frame, but I could have been under there had I been making different
Wow.
choices, going slower, stopped and talked a little longer with somebody. All of that perfectly orchestrated so I was not hurt. This is how our intuition works. This is how our heart knows everything. It is this receptor of information. It's the seat of our soul, the center of our being. That help answer your question? So it's see, you want to think through it. This isn't a thing.
It's how to stop that chatter.
Oh, you
Yeah,
froze.
I lost you for a second.
Yeah, you froze
There you
for.
go. Can you hear me? Okay? Ah, okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, it is. It's like how to stop the chatter for
Yes.
a moment,
Okay.
because I'm probably the least patient person in this. Everyone is probably, but I'm not that patient, especially having 3 kids, to sit down and and spend like an hour or 30 minutes. To me, it's like, oh, I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting my time, my dishes, my laundry, I have a course to finish. I have to pick up the son from school, and I'm tired. All these thoughts. And after a while, you're like, I can't listen anymore. I'm gonna go lay down. I can't lay down. I gotta go stand up. I gotta go drink. It's nonstop.
Yeah. And if you did, like for example, let's say, God forbid, you'll break your leg or something, then you can't do any of those things, and life would still go on. You see, as you were talking, I could almost hear the frenetic, all of the side talk of the brain. It's diabolical. And all of those things are things you were taught. Is that, oh, I'm the mother, I have to take care of my child. Well, what if I couldn't move? What if I did break my leg? My child would need to help take care of me. And you think, oh, that can't happen. That can't happen. I'm the mother. I've got to take care of it. Well, wait a minute. You're a child of God. They're children of God. Everybody works together as a family. When one family has a weakness, the other family is to come there to help bring it up. What about that?
That's
Is it
good.
more important to do the laundry, or is it more important to your daughter to help feed you? Is it more important, you say, to go to the grocery store or buy some more expensive clothes? Or is it more important to spend a little extra time with the child and have some heartfelt conversation? Find out why they got in a
That's
fight at school, or why they were feeling poorly about something, when all of that usually is the thoughts of somebody else interfering your perfect life.
mm, that's beautiful. I love that.
So it's a good that you went through that just now, because it's a great example. It happens to all of us, happens to me too. It's, oh, I have to do this. And then all of a sudden I go, wait a minute. No, I don't. Who said I have to do this? You know, it's just me.
Well, is that what you're talking about? Is that the I know in the word in Russian, I don't know English, but it's the pre-made decisions, pre-made choices that you already know what you have to do, pre-programming, I guess. In certain situations, you act this way, and instead taking a step back and being like, wait, who is thinking that? Where it's coming from? Is it coming from my heart? Like you taught me, this thing about looking with your left eye versus right eye. I already showed it to 3 people. I'm so happy.
Isn't it amazing?
We can
Because
do that exercise. We
yeah,
can do that exercise next time. I feel like we need to wrap up because I want to, I want to schedule next recording later, but we can wrap it up and close it down, and then have more conversations continuing with your story, because I feel like as we unwrap your story, there's so much on the way, and all the other topics come up, and the amazing information that I love talking about, and there's a new angle the way you talk about it, the way you see it, the way you experienced it, through many lifetimes, I guess. Not only this one. Although you're sharing this one.
sure, what I'll do, I'll end the recording now and then we'll figure that out. Okay. All right.
Sounds good.
I'll end the recording now.